We are live, people. Another CEO Wisdom podcast with Anadi James Taylor. You will find him straight up as Anadi Taylor on LinkedIn. He is CEO at iSportsAnalysis. Interesting guy. We talked about meditation and retreats last time we spoke, so we both share that heritage in us. We talked about sports because that's what Anadi's company is into. We're going to talk about football, of course. We're going to talk about building huge clubs and potentially even acquiring some. One of my favorite topics, because I feel it can be one of the best investment once you're up there. Anadi, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about iSportsAnalysis.
Thank you very much, Charles. Yes, so iSportsAnalysis came about because we realized a very long time ago, around about 2016, actually, that the performance analysis tools that are generally used by, top-level clubs, Premier League clubs, etc., were too expensive for everybody else. And so what we did is we investigated that and ended up building out browser-based versions of that software. And it was a great process, actually, because we started out developing tools that could be used to analyze games. And that led on to universities using the platform where students would sign in and all analyze the same game independently of each other on the same on different devices. And that has then led on into individual players being able to be a part of a self-development, self-reflection process. So we've gone from just analysis tools into really building it out into something that, as well as being able to add value from the analysis of games, enables the development of teams and players in their game performance.
Right. If I'm a football club owner or let's say rugby, or if I have my sports club and I'm competing at high level, you can potentially be my unfair advantage, because I'm guessing that most team have picked up these technology probably 5 to 10 years ago, started taking that seriously. And then you have specific features which might give me an edge against other football clubs, which potentially means that I would win more games and I would sell more ticket as a result. Is that good thinking?
That's absolutely spot on, yes. And really, with regards to the last 5 years, the Premier League clubs really have spent a lot of money on analysis. It's everybody else. It's your second divisions, third divisions of all sports, basically. And firstly, some of the services we provide is not only the tools to analyze games, but we've also got now a team of analysts, which we've had for a number of years, who can do the analysis. And so what that means is these clubs that we provide these services for, they don't have to employ an analyst of their own to go through the process of analyzing their games. We can do it for them. And that does definitely give teams the advantage, because it makes it very obvious as to where your team's performing well and where they're not. And of course, both are important, right? Because if you're a coach training a team, you can actually see the progression of performance in the areas that you're training them. So it works very well and definitely does give teams the advantage, without a doubt.
Right. And the software itself, tell us about some of its features that are quite cool. I spoke with some entrepreneurs not so long ago that are doing machine learning and vision learning, I believe it's called. So it's with your own iPhone, you can film yourself, and if I shoot hoops and basket, it can analyze my technique. It can make me go through drills and play some noise when I hit the swoosh. So tell us about some features that you're developing and some innovative features that you're thinking of adding on the roadmap.
I think one of the exciting features that we've actually added is to move over to analyzing coaches that are training teams. And at some point, AI will definitely play a bigger role in this whole process than it does. But at the moment, it's very expensive training machine learning models. As soon as you move a camera, the process kind of begins again. Not exactly, but sort of. So we do it all manually, which is why we have our team of analysts. But to be able to analyze coaches and to be able to allow coaches to reflect on the coaching sessions, I think is a very exciting kind of avenue that we've gone down, because there are so many bits of software out there that allow you to analyze teams and allow you to analyze players. Very few bits of software out there that enable the analysis of coaches. And this is very important because these coaches are training your players. And so we've worked with a number of Premier League clubs who have gone down this road with us. And very interestingly, when initially we go into these clubs, we met with a lot of resistance. Coaches don't want to be accountable. They don't want to be made looking like they're making mistakes. Once they start getting into the process, which is basically about them reflecting on their coaching sessions and comparing what they delivered in their session to what they planned to deliver, the learning process behind that is huge. And the feedback has been really, really exciting. Very, very good.
Tell us about other features that caught my attention, like cheer analysis or work rest training, which is super important nowadays.
Cheer analysis is an interesting one, actually, for me. I didn't actually recognize the skills involved in cheerleading. And I was in a conversation actually with a production company in America. This is a number of years ago. And they were out filming American football games, which is actually what the discussion was originally about, because we don't only analyze football or soccer, we do all other sports. And they were saying about filming cheerleading. And one of the people on the call was a cheerleading coach and was watching what we do for these other sports and actually said, I wish we had this for cheerleading. And actually, I thought, wow, this could be a really good thing. So I went away and studied cheerleading. A very, very impressive sport. It really is a very impressive sport. And so then went away and developed tools that enabled the analysis of cheerleading. And it's not something that we've absolutely focused on at the moment, but it is something that we will focus on. And I think what's really exciting about the cheerleading analysis is, as well as being able to analyze routines and skills within those routines, we already have the technology to compare the skills being performed by cheerleaders with those skills being performed by a top level cheerleaders, and to be able to make a comparison. And once again, it comes back to improving the performance and enabling learning. So that is very, very exciting. Like I say, that's not our main focus at the moment, but we've absolutely got world-class cheerleading analysis tools that nobody else has at the moment, which is very exciting. Yeah. And with the work rest, we worked with a rugby coach, and he came to us and said, look, I've got this system that I've been using and I've been doing it manually. And the idea behind it really is that during a game of rugby, so a game of rugby maybe lasts 90 minutes. During a game of rugby, you might have, say, 35 minutes of play, but within that play, you might have 15 to 20 minutes of intense play. And so being able to emulate that using a work rest calculator means that you can train your athletes at a higher intensity without tiring them and causing fatigue, which obviously then leads on to possible injury, etc., etc.
Super important. The topic to recover is taking popularity, because back in the days it was work, 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 and until you kind of burn out, recovery was not this popular science. And me, I see it nowadays, as an athlete back in the days, with considering my 1 meal a day diet and everything that I did, I overtrained, and I built muscle slower. My testosterone levels were lower. So it's really important to find that equilibrium, because once you're this high achiever, it's easy to overtrain and keep on stacking the work, but you don't necessarily get the results that you want. I want to get to your background, Anadi. You're a lot into meditation and mindfulness. Tell us about how that started for you, and how that transitioned to your current life nowadays and impact your CEO performances.
Yes, well, I've kind of been around meditation and that world from quite a young age, actually. But I think when it really accelerated for me was I left home when I was young. I left home when I was about 15 and a half. I said, right, I'm going to live in London. And off I went to live in London. I reflect on that now and think, oh dear, that was a brave move. But nonetheless, that's what I did. And I met a lot of people in that world that actually led me to spending quite a lot of time in ashrams in India. And I thoroughly enjoyed that whole process. It was very growthful for me. And actually, I think from the perspective of being an entrepreneur, to have gone through those processes of meditation and learning about myself and learning about clearing and learning about how my thoughts and my feelings in situations can affect those situations has been very, very beneficial, because I do think that being an entrepreneur is a very it's a path not fit for all, I would say. I don't know if you would agree with that, Charles, but I think it takes a certain type of person to be an entrepreneur. And I think one of the things that's aided me through those kind of ups and downs has been the meditation and the centeredness that I feel I have achieved from that.
Right. Well, in your current state of biology, with the current technology that we have in 2023, we can say that, yeah, it is quite hard to be an entrepreneur if the genes aren't there, but we're about to hit an age in which you can edit yourself like code and build some programs into you and download some internal software. So I don't think that would be I'm also a firm believer that anyone can change. Yes, there needs to be seed, and yes, body is mind and mind is body. So it's easier. It's like, oh, this guy that went from being homeless to be a successful founder, now driving a G-Wagon. Well, were seeds planted in this guy's past? That he had a chip on his shoulder, that he had something to prove? Did someone spit on him when he was in the street saying he was worthless piece of crap and that he was poor? I don't know. Yeah. And what chain reaction did that started? Did he already had the underlying skills to get a push in that world? Did he had that grit? I'm a firm believer that anyone can change, anyone can go into some direction. It's interesting to analyze people. In this podcast, I get to talk to a lot of folks, but for me, my dad was an entrepreneur. I got some kind of late start in life. I wasn't a bum, but I was somewhat near that. Had a big ego, still have up to this day. Everything considered equal, although mindfulness did help with that. But talking about that, do you feel that mindfulness has reduced ego? What do you feel the role of ego plays in business? And is there such a thing as equilibrium? Because when you go on these retreats, it's all about there's no ego, and then you come back in the real world and you're all confused. Okay, what do I do now? Do I stay in an ashram and spend my whole life there? My conclusion to that was I can help other people, so I'm not going to stay there. and I'm already happy, I'm not struggling with anything. So if that would be the case, and if I would be like not set up genetically, I'd stay in an ashram and just meditate my whole life there, trying to find happiness or meaning. But since I already have that, I'm going to go out there, kill it, and help people do the same. What do you feel about ego, these retreats, and coming back in society? What is your purpose?
Okay, so first of all, with the ego, ego is a very interesting thing for me. So I've witnessed people going to retreats and creating egos around being people that go on these retreats, which is a fascinating thing to me. And that's absolutely not the point of these retreats. So for me, these retreats were about silence, coming to stillness, coming into my center. And I always remember on one of the ashrams I was on, the kind of the guru there, he said, okay, now take it to the marketplace. So now be silent in the world and function in the world from that space of silence. And I personally believe that being in a body, functioning in the world, means we have to have some semblance of ego. But the thing is, I think first of all, ego gets a bad rap. If we don't have ego, then we're not driven to do anything, whether it's to help people or whether it's to, earn enough money to put a roof over our head. We have to have that sense of self, really, to make that happen. But I think where ego goes wrong is where it becomes the master, rather than a kind of a tool, actually, that we use to function within life. So to come from that place of being still and to recognize that, okay, I'm about to meet somebody, I'm about to go to the shops to buy something, I need to have a certain sense of self to be able to do that. And if I take that into the entrepreneurial world, when I'm meeting people that have booked appointments that I've never met before, I don't know what they're like as people, and there's always that ego involved in all of that. But I don't believe that ego needs to be, as I say, it doesn't need to be the driver. It needs to be a tool that allows me to function within the world.
The most dangerous form of ego is when, and I see that in salespeople quite a lot, is when it is so advanced that it is more intelligent than you and you don't even realize that it's there. We see that in individuals like Trump, for example. They just totally lost track, and ego has really taken over them. Absolutely. Ego is riding the horse. They are the horse. They're not the horsemen. And that's the horsemen of apocalypse right there. It's like, get enough of these megalomans, which I sort of started in, and I still have that in me, but get enough of those guys in power and the world will go to shit. They will fight. They don't care about others. All they care about is themselves, and in that case, their own pocket. So capitalism usually is good. Capitalism is ego as well. It's like, yeah, that's my property. It's let's trade energies, right? Which is good also. I'm good at this, you're good at that. That's ego right there. And yeah, that's a good amount of ego is great. But yeah, once people take too much advantage of this system and start aggregating power and growing that power and just for the sake of having power and without having any intrinsic goals, I think that is where it becomes dangerous. For these retreats, I kind of felt confused most of the time. I didn't take enough time to kind of assimilate. I had multiple insights, but for example, the ego part of me in these retreats, I was taking a lot of notes, so I feel the IQ was still too present vs the heart-centeredness, the EQ part of it. What's been your experience when coming back to the real world, and do you take the time to integrate all of that?
My first experience of coming back into the real world was I was over in India an ashram for 6.5 months the first time, and I came back to England, and it was more of a culture shock for me coming back to the UK than it was going to India, because I'd just been in that space of stillness and around people generally that were in that space. And I came back to London. I'm based in London, and I absolutely love London. I think it's a fantastic city. There are other fantastic cities I could list, but I came back to London, and it seemed to me that everything was so fast and so manic, and the people were so in their heads and driven, and for me it was a shock. So the first time I came back, it was, like I say, a real culture shock, you know. And I really did have to take some time out to assimilate, process everything that I'd been through without realizing that I'd been through everything that I had been through, but then assimilate myself back into this kind of, well, the marketplace, as it was called by as I say, the master that I was with. And yeah, just took my time really, which I did allow myself the space, and I think that was an important part of the process for me.
I fully get you with the hectic pace. Although, like me, I live in Oaxaca, which is quite reclusive, so usually you don't feel that. But just for example, my last 10 days retreat, it was during Christmas time, which was weird in itself, you know. So we spent the New Year and Christmas meditating. That was like a shock in itself, because me, I'm like Canadian, used to the Christmas with snow and the celebrations with the family. So we would hear the fireworks and the people partying and screaming while we were meditating. Anyway, so right after that, it was the holidays. So time that I would book with my wife, and just to thank her for me not being there for 10 days out of my responsibilities and so forth. So we spent with the family, and just being with the family and, you know, talking left and right, yada, yada, yada. That I was like, that's interesting. So it was kind of an extreme test of like being patient and just practicing what I have learned, you know, and that silence. So just the external world. Well, do you feel that or state of nature is silence? Because a lot of people nowadays, they claim that humanity is not doing fine. We've strayed away from our nature. We're now like hectic and compete. I guess that's the direct results of capitalism mostly. Do you feel that we're headed in the right direction in this world, psychologically speaking, happiness-wise, stress-wise, or do you feel that we strayed away from our true state of nature and meditating solo in a cave?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, that is. So I'm not too sure about there being a true state. So the way I kind of explain what I have experienced is that we are all here as aspects of consciousness wanting to know itself, right? So it's like the universe and everything within it wants to know itself in every way possible. And the only way it can do that is if we're all living out the lives that we are living out. So I think from that perspective, absolutely, we're absolutely on track, you know. However, I do find it really interesting. So my wife and myself, because we both run our own businesses, we make a point every evening of going out to a restaurant and having a meal. And it's a fascinating thing to me when you see families sitting around a table, all on different devices. And for me, that I don't think is very healthy. I think as human beings, you know, we need interaction, we need connection, and we need conversation, actually. And I think there needs to be a break from technology. And coming back to what you said earlier, we definitely are moving towards a state of, you know, using all sorts of technology to be able to reprogram ourselves and, you know, to learn languages in minutes rather than years. And, you know, so I guess I've just contradicted myself there, but I think I think that there's a healthy level of using technology and being in this world. And then there's also a healthy level of just taking a sit back, taking a rest, taking a break, and just being able to recognize who it is that is experiencing this, really.
I don't think you contradicted yourself, because technology is an amplifier, and even in some cases, it's a cure. Think of a heart pace. The smartphone problem, me, when I see that, and yes, I do see it as well, and I see pain, you know. I think us folks that spent a bit more time nurturing the consciousness garden, we're more susceptible to seeing these things. Pain, what do I mean by that is, well, first it's this addiction, right? It's this serotonin loop. Oh, I'm in this neutral state, I need to feel something, you know. It's like, yeah, I need to feel that thing in my brain, I need to have that dopamine, that serotonin. And by the way, an even greater problem than that we don't see because it's behind wall, it's porn. For men, that is a huge curse, which I often talk about. But with these phones, it's like, yeah, this is boring, you know. What's gonna shoot the most serotonin in my brain? Definitely not having a convo. I didn't practice that, or I'm not super good at that, so let's just hit up my phone, you know. And then next thing you know, this phone is not enough to shoot enough serotonin in your brain, so you get bored, and then you go in that negative loop, you know. I also think it's an underlying pain, you know, that it's almost if you're at the serotonin deficit from your life sucking or something. You kind of didn't set yourself up for success. Most of these folks that we see at the restaurant at 6 p.m., they just came back from work, right? Mm-hmm. Work is shit for most, you know. First, humans are not made to work. Second, the ones that did, I think they converted their brain into working machines, probably like you and I. So we've adapted and we're thriving, but that's like the minority. And yeah, just the deal and the contract of employee and employee, it just doesn't make any sense, which is why I'm quite bullish on bots. But yeah, they had a lot of pain, right? And now they want to chill, they want to relax. They also don't water their health and spiritual garden much, so they get, you know, in these loops. And I guess, like for most, well, all they can dream about, and I can somewhat relate to that, me back in the days, it's like, when is the vacations coming? And eventually, when is the retirement coming, you know? What do you think about all the points that I just mentioned? Because they're quite on the left there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on with regards to people being addicted. And also, I think you're spot on with people. It's always about the next thing, whether it's, you know, the weekend's coming, I'm looking forward to the weekend, or when's my next vacation, or and like you say, when am I going to retire? And for me, I see that, but I can't relate to that. So the work that I do, sometimes I'm spending, and it's you know, not an unusual story or tale, but I'm sometimes spending 10 to 15 hours a day running my business, and I absolutely love it. And so for me, why would I need a holiday from that, right? But I take your point that a lot of people, it's coming back to what I say about entrepreneurs, you know. I think we are a slightly different breed, and I think that entrepreneurs are generally, a lot of the time, people that they can't actually go and do a 9-to-5 job, because they recognize it's a slow death, you know, and they'd rather take the risk and spend the hours doing something that gives them, well, 1, joy, but 2, challenge, and 3, you know, allows them freedom and a sense of self kind of, I don't know, achievement, I suppose. I don't know. What do you think about that, Charles?
Yeah, it's like the top of the Maslow's pyramid. I think it's called self-realization, something like that. I mean, I'd rather, I mean, there's pains to entrepreneurship, but are they big pains, you know? Like, for example, like, you'll be broke for a while. That is a fact, you know? but I'd rather be broke for a while than having someone incompetent tell me what to do. That's on the IQ level. Then on the EQ level, most don't have any fucking values, like the manager, he will tell me to do this and that. And oh yeah, that's fine. Like that's marketing, do this. No, like me, I want to stay true to my values. I want to be honest. And I can't imagine staying true to my values and not losing my soul, having a job. And I mean, slow death, it's, yeah, eating glass and staring in the abyss of death, like Elon would say it, not for the entrepreneur part of it, but for the job part of it. Like, imagine that I've been working on my values for like the past 7 to 10 years. Even nowadays, I cannot say that I'm a saint, but imagine if I would have someone to try to decide upon some of these values of mine. I'd be a crappy human being,
Absolutely.
And I see that all the time. I see that in my employees. They don't really have values. To them, it just doesn't matter. It's just the way it's done, just the contract part of being hired in a business is kind of selling your soul to the devil. It's a bit extreme here. It's not always that way, especially as you rise through the rank. But yeah, talk about an intern at a law firm that is just crunching through all the documents while the other guys do the easy stuff, have a sip of espresso and talk to clients. And by the way, again, to my point, technology is now doing that, GPT. So I think we're due for fundamental change in this job market. And I do think that AI and eventually AGI will bring humongous value to us. Yes, it's scary, just like everything. The darkness and what we don't know as humans is always scary. It will always be that way. But I'm quite bullish about this future. I'm not like in the Terminator camp. I don't think we're going to be terminated. I think we're going to be amplified for the better and for the worse. And I think, if we can have an intelligent being that is ethical and also calculates its action and has some form of EQ and some form of heart and promotes love at scale, why not? And then, yes, there will be these villains that will need to be fought by these heroes, hero GPTs and so forth. But I think it's an exciting future. What do you think about that future?
I think it's very exciting. I really do think it's very exciting. And I think I think the outcome of it depends on the way it's used. It's always the light against the dark, the good against evil. One of the things that I see with technology is it will allow people more time to do what they're passionate about. We don't all have to go to work. There are systems now that are taking the place of workers. Now, as long as those workers are supported in, they're not working because their job's been taken by technology, I think it's an absolutely fantastic future before us. And I absolutely love the way technology is unfolding. And yeah, I'm very enthusiastic about it. And I absolutely love being a part of it.
Love it, dude. Well, I mean, we're on time. It was a cool talk. We very much vibe on the same symphony here. It's been an honor. Where can people find more about you, Danny?
They can find more about the software by going to iSportsAnalysis.com. So thank you very much for that. If people want to find more out about me, LinkedIn is the place, really.
There you go. And Anadi Taylor on LinkedIn if you want to find him. And yeah, iSportsAnalysis. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.